Winter cold air is sweeping into the Northeast and also in areas around the Great Lakes and Ohio Valley. And we're also setting up for some snow, maybe as much as 3, 4, 5 inches in parts of Virginia as a weather system moves through the mid-Atlantic states. Some rain in the southeast. We've got various winter storm watches and warnings up in parts of the northern Rockies. And we are the Joe and Joe Weather Show podcast. And the Joe and Joe Weather Show podcast can be supported by those of you who shop on Amazon. If you use our referral link to get you there, Amazon tosses us a little bit of coin. And as a result, we can keep the Joe and Joe Weather Show live version commercial free. Doesn't cost you 1 extra cent out of your own pocket. If you're shopping on Amazon, just use our referral link, to get you there. And we thank you very much.
Excuse you?
What's that? Yes, excuse me.
I said excuse you.
Yes. And we thank everybody who's done so using the referral link to shop on Amazon. Still plenty of time to get that great weather gift for the weather geek in your life, Tempest by WeatherFlow. You get the revolutionary Tempest weather system, enjoying the fastest growing observing weather network on the planet. The link for this is pinned to the top of the chat board. It's also on the descriptor to this podcast. And there is a coupon code, which Joe Rayo knows.
Yes, rather inappropriate, considering what we're dealing with right now. And it's also on the chat board, thanks to Rich Rotmansky. That code is autumn, folks, not winter, not yet anyway, autumn 2025. And if you use that coupon code in conjunction with anything you may purchase at Tempest, try this with any other product, but if you try it with Tempest and use the official Joe and Joe weather code, you'll get 10 big % off.
Yes, you will. So I noticed, by the way, Mr. Rayo, that on the 21Z or the 4 p.m. surface map, and I'm putting it up on the screen now, that the Arctic boundary, if you want to call it that, because the air behind it certainly is very cold, has moved on through. And now here comes a shot of cold air that's going to go take you down to the teens and single digits come Wednesday morning. And in places, the further north you go into New York State, the further north you go into New England, you're talking maybe 0 to 5 above, and also single digits across the Ohio Valley and into the Great Lakes. This is a very cold air mass.
It is absolutely cold. Before we came on the air, I said to you that I was just out with my dog and took him to the end of the driveway, and that's when he decided to do the number 2 dance. And if you're a dog owner, and Joe and I certainly have owned more than a few dogs of our own over the years, you know that when the dog does the number 2 dance, he'll go back and forth, back and forth, back and forth until he finds just the right spot to do his thing. And that's one thing if it's like 50 degrees or if it's in the summertime. But when you got wind chills in the 20s and teens, like I had been out, 20 minutes ago, you're looking at the dog and you're finally just going to say, "Do it already!"
I know. I have yelled that. Although my dog is very good he's very routine. He goes out, he does number 1, and then he goes into, another section of the yard sometimes, and he goes rather quickly. I know I can't really complain too much. When he was younger, he was more particular, but now he goes rather quickly. And, they want to get it over with, too, when the weather's as cold as this. I mean, you're talking about readings down in the single digits and teens in early December. And that is very cold. You could call it bitter relative to the time of year, as far as I'm concerned.
Absolutely. And the one thing I don't understand, I won't call this forecaster out specifically, but here in New York, there was one weathercaster, and he's giving you wind chill temperatures as you head out the door tomorrow morning to work or to school. And I'm scratching my head and I'm saying to myself, You know, you really don't need to say anything about wind chill because as windy and as blustery as it is right now, by the time we get to tomorrow morning, winds are probably going to be down to like 5 miles an hour or maybe even less, maybe just light and variable, which will mean that the chill factor won't be a factor at all. What you're going to feel tomorrow morning as you head out the door is the actual ambient air temperature, which is going to be cold enough. It's going to be, at least in the lower Hudson Valley, Joe, ranging from 7 degrees above zero. I have for interior rural valleys well north and west of New York City, to 18 for urban and coastal areas. So if you live in New Rochelle or Yonkers or Mount Vernon, you'll probably be getting up tomorrow morning to about an 18-degree temperature. Where I am here in Putnam Valley, I'm probably going to see temperatures down near 11 or 12, which by far and away is the coldest we have been so far this season. But again, that's the actual ambient air temperature. There really won't be that much of a wind for you to add on to make it feel colder. It's going to be cold enough. You don't need to worry about the wind chill factor tomorrow. And tomorrow itself, going for temperatures tomorrow, somewhere between 25 and maybe for a place like Yonkers around Vernon, 31 degrees in lower Westchester. Sun will be giving way to late day clouds, but again, winds are not going to be much of a factor at all. They'll start out probably light, maybe out of the northeast in the morning, southeast in the afternoon. But again, it's not going to be anything like what we're experiencing out there right now with the winds gusting past 20 and 30 miles an hour. Winds are going to diminish quickly after midnight and into tomorrow as the dome of, it's a relatively small dome, but it is very concentrated, a dome of cold Canadian air that's going to be sitting over the northeastern states over the next day or so.
The southern part of that cold front is cutting through Virginia, western North Carolina, and has just passed me. And there's not a big temperature difference on either side. However, where it's going to have some impact is across Virginia, eastern Kentucky into southern West Virginia, and northern areas of even parts of western North Carolina and northern counties of North Carolina. The wedging of the cold air in there and this little wave of low pressure moving through the Gulf states is going to produce some snows and the first accumulating snows. Now, this comes very early. We had Dave Tolerance on last night pointing out the fact that snows this early in the mid-Atlantic states are pretty rare. So if you take a look at the forecast snow amounts, if first off, as far as eastern Pennsylvania to southern New England is concerned, I really don't think you're going to see much of anything other than maybe a few stray flakes flying around. I suppose, you can't rule out the possibility that if there's some sort of renegade little patch that runs up that somebody gets the ground whitened, but that'll be that's the absolute maximum. But areas, say Washington, D.C., could see maybe a coating to an inch or so. Not far, you don't have to go that far south on I-95, where you start to get into some 2 and 3 inch amounts near Richmond. Even some accumulating snows just west of Norfolk and Virginia Beach. Lynchburg forecast to get 4, Roanoke 4, Blacksburg 4, and even some 5-inch prints in that part of western Virginia. So if you're cutting up I-81, which I do from time to time, between Blacksburg and Harrisonburg, you're going to see a 2 to 4 inch snowfall. And also, if you're going east in Virginia, southern Virginia, you're going to be in a band of 2 to 4. And some of the mountains may wind up getting, some of the higher mountaintops might wind up getting 6, 7, or 8. And that's why we have winter weather advisories for just about all of the state of Virginia, even into Maryland, or as I like to say, Maryland. Northern counties of North Carolina and western counties of North Carolina. Not close to me, Joe, but not that far away. And we also have advisories in southeast Kentucky and in a few counties in northern Tennessee. Meanwhile, I just want to point out that out in the northern Rockies, we've got a number of winter storm warnings up from Idaho down to western Colorado. So a little bit of snow action here where it's been somewhat lacking so far this autumn season. And That's why we've been kind of getting all this cold in the east because it hasn't been all that cold in the west. It's also hasn't been all that stormy in the inland areas of the west either. So this is for many of these areas. This is probably their first significant snowfall because it's come very late. And on the satellite loop tonight, you can see the moisture streaming out of the Pacific, across the Gulf states, and then off the mid-Atlantic coast. When you look at the loop, Joe, it pretty much says it all. The northwest flow continuing from Lake Superior. You can see how the clouds are moving from Lake Superior to southeastern New England. And it's west northwest winds aloft, and then you've got this sort of subtropical jet that's rolling across the south, but there's no real northward push to it. So you're not going to see that snow area in Virginia advance northward.
I think that the northern extent of the snow will make it maybe as far north as central and southern Delaware. I've been, if you live in South Jersey and or maybe Ocean County or whatever, you might get a cheap fill and see some snowflakes, but I don't really think there's going to be much in terms of an accumulation that far north. And whereas yesterday I was thinking just as a CYA type of forecast, I mentioned maybe a slight risk of some accumulating snow south of Interstate 287 in lower Westchester. I've got snow now completely taken out of the forecast. I've got clouds, but I really haven't mentioned anything about snow. It looks like this one, and you know what? This is vaguely similar to the December of 1989 that we touched upon last night, where most of that month was very cold, but it seemed like all the big storms passed just off to our south. And
All the
this
small ones too.
situation tomorrow night is just a classic example of what happened in '89.
Yeah, big, any bigger ones and all the smaller ones. In fact, if I remember correctly, the one accumulating snow that happened that month was right at the end of as the pattern was breaking down right after Christmas, and then it was done. I mean, because January, February, and March were three of the warmest. The January, February, March combination. It was probably one of the warmest on record. Meanwhile, on the radar tonight, there were a lot of snow squalls this afternoon across upstate New York and into New England.
Right.
Right. Numerous snow squall warnings were up, but they didn't make it down to the coast. But you can see what's going on here in the south, where we've got some heavy precipitation. Well, let's not call it heavy, maybe moderate rain moving across northern Alabama and into central Tennessee around Nashville. And as it gets into the colder air that's up in eastern Kentucky and western Virginia and northeastern Tennessee, you're seeing this is where we're starting to see snow break out, and that's going to gradually make its way across Virginia and maybe into southern Maryland and into Delaware, as Joe mentioned. We also have some rain down near the Gulf Coast from southeast Louisiana all the way into southeast Georgia and off into the offshore of South Carolina. I'm kind of in a hole here in North Georgia. It's been a very cloudy, very cold day. Trust me, because I went fishing today out on the boat in the lake, and it was cold. And I was telling Joe off camera, I'm not in my 20s or 30s anymore. I'm not doing this again. I've done it 2 years in a row, and it's been, it was kind of a brutal experience. Today was not as bad as last year when it was 17 when we went out. This morning it was about 29, but with hardly any sun once we got to sunrise, it was very difficult to take. But I did catch, between myself and my friend Phil, we caught 6 striped bass, and that's at the end of the day what matters. Here's what's going on up in the northern Rockies, where we've got snow areas going on in northern Idaho, also in southern Idaho, kind of nosing into western Wyoming, and also some areas of snow in parts of Montana. There's rain in the Pacific Northwest, some snow in the mountains in Washington State and into northern Oregon. As far as we're concerned, precipitation-wise, over the next 7 days, we're looking at basically maybe from less than a tenth of an inch to at most a quarter of an inch for much of Maine down into North Carolina. It's a little bit more in southeastern down East Maine, also a little bit more around the lakes. and a little bit more in the central Appalachians, and that's what's playing through tonight. You see this area of a half an inch of liquid from West Virginia down into eastern Tennessee, and then you're looking at an inch and a half plus additional rainfall amounts in the southeast down near the coasts of South Carolina, Georgia, and North Florida, and big precip amounts in Idaho, western Montana, and going up into Canada. So the northern Rockies are going to start really putting down some solid snow amounts, and heavy rains in Washington and Oregon, the western parts of those states, where we're talking about maybe as much as 5 to 10 inches of rain over the next 7 days. So pretty active pattern there. Joe, overall, over the next week or so, and we'll just take a look here at the upper flow. I'm using the European model. This northwest flow out of Canada is not going to go away anytime soon. And if anything, it may strengthen quite a bit, perhaps later next week into the following weekend, when we could see a more significant trough dropping into the eastern part of the United States and a more significant cold air mass, before we get maybe a little bit of a relaxation around the 13th or 14th. And you can see it here. There's that big arm coming down from Canada around the 14th, 15th, and that would be, if that verifies, that's going to probably be the coldest air of the season so far, as each of these air masses, each subsequent air mass coming down will be colder than the other one. And then we get a little bit of a relaxation. But, I said this to I said this to Dave last night. The muscle memory of the models, to me, suggests that, yeah, okay, maybe you get a slight relaxation for a day or two, but the troughs keep wanting to come back into the east, and the ridges keep wanting to go back in the west. If that's the case, any respite from this cold weather pattern that we're in is going to be very short. Yeah.
Yeah, and in fact, that system that you're talking about for around the 13th and 14th of December, that is a upper level disturbance that is positively tilted. Now, if you are hoping for any kind of a storm to accompany the cold air, you want to see that these troughs, go negative. In other words, if you're thinking of a grandfather clock with a big pendulum, positively tilted troughs are where the pendulum is way off to the left. Negatively tilted troughs are when they're off to the right. And when they do that, when they go around to the right, they tend to generate storms, maybe along the mid-Atlantic coast or just off of the eastern seaboard. And those type of storms intensify rapidly and bring, if there's cold enough air, a pretty good snowfall. But when you have a positively tilted trough, you get the cold air, but unfortunately, by the time the storm turns negative, it's way out in the ocean and is too far away offshore or to the east to provide us with much of anything, maybe save some clouds and a couple of flurries. And that's what the system in December 13, 14 looks like, is a positively tilted trough. And I will say, Joe, at least I'm looking at the European here, that by the night of the 14th and 15th, the upper level flow is coming straight down from the north. Our coldest weather has always come on those cold northerly winds, and that is pretty much what we may be looking at for around the 13, 14, 15. You think it's cold now, it may be at least the coldest weather we have seen so far by the time we get to the 14th or 15th of December. And then, as you point out, as that upper level trough swings out over the ocean, a ridge of high pressure tries to build in, and it looks like the cold will relax, and there will be a spell of somewhat milder air coming in for around the 16th, 17th, 18th. But as quickly as that moves in, it moves out, and here comes another trough that looks like it's arriving sometime around the 19th or 20th. Now, again, these are long-range forecasts. I mean, we've said over and over again that you really can't put too much credence on this. Once you get past, let's say, 4 or 5 days, they're more or less becoming science fiction progs. But if you want to get an idea, general idea, or the trend of what the weather looks like as we progress through this month of December, that pretty much looks like the picture. It looks like, more often than not, colder than normal weather. There'll be some spells of, milder temperatures, a little bit of a thaw, if you will, for a few days. But again, more often than not, it looks like it's going to be on the cold side, at least through the middle part of this month, and maybe even a little beyond that, too.
Yeah, I think I think we've seen enough in the overall pattern in the last couple of months where the warm ups between air masses coming down from the north are getting shorter and shorter. The length of the cold air staying around is getting longer and longer. And yeah, that's going to certainly continue this month. Uh, right now, it also, as you point out, I mean, we really don't have any big weather systems running around. With the northwest flow, we are going to be getting systems coming down from time to time. For example, after this goes out on to our south, it goes out on Friday evening. There's another weather front that's going to come through probably on Sunday, and there's a little disturbance with that. Now, the models are handling this differently. The GFS wants to make more out of this with uh, rain perhaps near the coast and maybe something more significant. It tries to develop some kind of wave east of North Carolina, and then that northern energy kind of gets involved with it. So you get a developing low that deepens as it heads towards Cape Cod. It would mean another significant snowfall, perhaps for parts of Pennsylvania and upstate New York and New England. I'm not sure if I'm ready to go on this road. Okay. The European is not showing it. I will also say that the European in the last week or so has not been doing very well. So, maybe the GFS is onto something by being on its own, but we'll have to square that away tomorrow and Saturday. But after that goes by in whatever form, there's another shot of cold air that comes in for the first part of next week. Then we've got another system in the northwest flow that comes through with another weather front along about late Tuesday, and then another one on Thursday. So I mean, it's just this bowling alley, Joe, of these systems in the northwest flow, and you don't usually get much out of those. Every once in a while, you'll get one that tracks far enough south. We'll have to see if something like that were to materialize. But for now, to me, it looks like it's going to be more cold. Cold is the bigger story. Snow is not front and center by any means for eastern Pennsylvania to southern New England at the moment, anyway.
And I'm just looking here at the European 2 meter air temperatures for that time I just alluded to a few minutes ago, December 15th. This would be the 1 p.m. Eastern time, close to the high temperatures on Monday, December 15th. And what the European is indicating here, at least on Tropical Tidbits, is a high temperature of around 20 in New York City, around 11 degrees for Poughkeepsie, 8 degrees in Albany. I'm just giving you an idea of if this is taken at face value, how cold the air is going to be by the 15th of December. And as far as the low temperatures are concerned at night, talking about temperatures of around 9 or 10 degrees at Central Park, 2 degrees at Poughkeepsie, and 3 below 0 in Albany, and up further north, something like 7 or 8 below 0, Saranac Lake or Plattsburgh. So there you have it. I mean, if you think that this spell of cold weather we're going through now, and it will go, we will have a nice one. We will not be as harsh with much less wind and somewhat milder temperatures. In fact, you get used to tomorrow with temperatures in the 20s. Saturday, some of you will see temperatures back in the mid 30s, and there won't be much wind. It may feel to you like springtime is occurring, but don't get too enthused because, as Joe just mentioned, there's another wave of cold weather waiting in the wings for the start of next week. And again, maybe the coldest of all will be waiting for the middle part of this month. And yeah, it looks like, Joe, at least in this part of the United States, the Northeast, it's not going to be the threat of any kind of big snows.
Right.
It's just going to be an ongoing period of cold weather.
Yeah. Well, it barely got out of the 30s today. In fact, it didn't here. It didn't even get. It actually didn't get out of the 30s until about an hour ago, when I jumped up to about 42, 43, and that's because that rain is approaching. So a little bit of a warm front's trying to push northward. But either way, it is cold here in North Georgia, and just they got another day tomorrow where temperatures are going to be in that really depressing range, 35 to 40, mid 30s to low 40s. And if you're a snow lover, nothing's more depressing than when you're sitting in cloudy skies with on and off rain and temperatures in the mid 30s to low 40s. So, as I said earlier, first of all, thanks to everybody on the chat for being here tonight. Always wonderful to see all the regulars here and some new folks that have joined the conversation. And we invite those of you who lurk in the background to do the same. All you got to do is subscribe to my YouTube channel and turn your notifications on so you don't miss us, and you can participate in the conversation on the chat board. But it's okay if you want to just hang around in the background. Not everybody wants to sit around and talk. I get that. But be sure you tune in to us. We're here Sunday through Thursday at 7:35. We'll be back on Sunday at 7:35 p.m. No changes in the schedule from what we're seeing at the moment.
And we'll hold off on Briller Jeopardy until Sunday too,
Yes,
because
I am exhausted. Fishing outside in temperatures in the low 30s for 4 hours on a boat, particularly when the boat is moving, is not fun. If you want to ever simulate wind chills of 10 degrees above with a temperature of 32, just go out on a boat that's going 20 miles an hour, and
yep.
you'll know how horrific it is. Really brutal. So we're gonna say goodnight. I'm tired. I'm gonna go to sleep. Sunday, I'll show you some pictures of the stripers that we caught here. And everybody have a great weekend and stay home. Why am I going out fishing in December? Asked Bobby Livingsworth. Well, up until a couple of years ago, it would never have, I would have done it without thinking. I am asking myself the same question after today because it's cold. But I have friends that we get together. One of my friends came down from Long Island, and we went fishing last year and had a great time. So we decided this was the time where he could come down. But we're having a conversation now about trying to reschedule it to perhaps earlier in November or maybe late October, just so that we don't have to go through this brutalness again. So everybody have a great night. We'll see you. We'll see you on Sunday. Joe, have a good weekend.
Just quickly to answer a question on the chat board to me from CC19524. What was the coldest I've ever gotten to at Putnam Valley? I've been here since 2002. We had a weather station installed several years later, so it might have been colder. But so far as I can remember, the coldest that we've ever had here is 9 degrees below zero. And God, I hope we don't ever repeat that because I can't take it.
And also to CC19524, talking to Bobby Livingsworth. So maybe I'm succumbing to age, sadly. Boy, that's a rough crowd, Joe. Apparently, I'm succumbing to age, sadly.
Hey,
I have at least a few weeks left. Okay, just so everybody's clear.
You have your pastime is fishing. Mine, of course, is stargazing. I've done many years. Now the best meteor shower of the year is coming up in about a week. In fact, it's coming up around the 14th of December. The Geminid meteor shower. Right. I can tell you that when I was much younger, I spent many a night when it was frigid, like in the 20s and teens, and even wind chills, down in the single digits, sitting out there on a lounge chair, just looking up, not moving, and looking for shooting stars, because again, that was the best meteor shower of the year. And so I said, I got to go. I got to do it. It doesn't matter if it's cold or not. When you're young, you can put up with that sort of nonsense. I can't do it. If I have perfectly clear skies that night, if it's anywhere near 20 or below, I'm staying in here and I'll pass on it until the next time. When you get older, things that were so easy to you in the 20s and 30s, Bobby Livingsworth, you wait until you get to Joe's age and my age, and it's a whole different story.
Well, it's CC19524, Joe. Which, by the way, everybody on the chat board, thank you for outing him. It's Tom Contino.
It figures.
right.
Good night, folks.
Good night. We'll see you all on Sunday.
Enjoy the Grinch and Frosty. They're on right now on NBC.
Bye.